From the latest court trail, music mogul Sean Diddy Combs has been found guilty in a federal court of two serious charges. Once a billionaire entertainment icon, Combs is now facing a future behind bars. But the jury's decision has left many shocked, as he was also acquitted on the most severe allegations. In this video, we break down what Diddy was charged with, what he was found guilty of, the key evidence, public reaction, and what comes next, the charges and the verdict. The trial against Sean Combs lasted nearly 7 weeks, with 5 federal charges brought against him. Racketeering conspiracy, which carried a maximum sentence of life in prison. Sex trafficking of singer Cassie Ventura, a mandatory minimum of 15 years, maximum of life. Transportation of Ventura for prostitution, up to 10 years. Sex trafficking of a second victim, referred to as Jane, minimum 15 years, up to life. Transportation of Jane for prostitution, again, a maximum of 10 years. On July 2nd, the jury announced their verdict. Not guilty of racketeering, not guilty of sex trafficking Ventura, guilty of transporting Ventura for prostitution, not guilty of sex trafficking Jane, guilty of transporting Jane for prostitution. The guilty verdicts carry a maximum of 10 years per count, meaning Diddy could face up to 20 years in prison. What a partial verdict means. The verdict was delayed by a day due to what is known as a partial verdict. On July 1st, jurors informed Judge R.N. Subramanian they had reached decisions on 4 of the 5 counts, but were deadlocked on the racketeering charge. Under U.S. criminal procedure, a partial verdict occurs when the jury agrees on some charges, but not all. Rather than releasing the 4 verdicts immediately, Judge Subramanian instructed the jury to continue deliberating. By the following morning, consensus had been reached on all 5 counts, allowing the court to read the verdicts together publicly. The evidence presented. The prosecution presented a case centered on years of alleged abuse, coercion, and manipulation. One of the most high-profile pieces of evidence was a surveillance video first released by CNN. It showed Combs in a hallway of an InterContinental Hotel in 2016 confronting Cassie Ventura. He violently threw her to the ground, kicked her, and dragged her back to a room. Prosecutors said Ventura was trying to flee what they called a freak-off, a term used to describe Combs's private parties where he allegedly watched and filmed women having sex with paid male escorts while he masturbated. They argued that these acts were not only violent, but qualified as sex trafficking due to the paid nature of the acts and the use of threats and blackmail. One key accusation was that Combs threatened to release sex tapes or withhold financial support if the women refused to participate. The second alleged victim, identified only as Jane, claimed she too was forced into similar freak-offs, often drugged beforehand and subjected to degrading treatment. In both cases, the prosecution emphasized a long pattern of predatory behavior, alleging that Diddy manipulated his fame, power, and wealth to control and silence his victims. Courtroom reactions and denied bail. After the verdict was read aloud, Combs reportedly kneeled and prayed. Then, rising to his feet, he turned to the gallery and said, "I'm gonna be home soon. I love you. Thank you. I love you." His supporters clapped and cheered. However, defense attorney Mark Agnafilo immediately pushed for his client to be released on $1 million bond until sentencing. The prosecution, along with Cassie Ventura's legal team, strongly opposed this. Judge Subramanian denied bail, citing Combs's admitted violent behavior toward former girlfriends and a demonstrated disregard for the law. The court scheduled a remote hearing for the following Tuesday to determine the sentencing date. While the defense offered to waive the typical pre-sentencing investigation to speed up the process, prosecutors argued more information was needed due to the case's complexity. Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey noted that despite Combs not being convicted on the most serious charges, the transportation convictions were directly tied to coercive and manipulative behavior and deserved serious consequences. What happens next? So what happens to Sean Diddy Combs now? Having been found guilty on 2 federal charges, Combs faces up to 20 years in prison. Prosecutors have confirmed they will seek a prison sentence. During the next court appearance, the judge will either accept the expedited process or follow the normal pre-sentencing investigation timeline. Combs remains in custody until sentencing, scheduled to be discussed in a hearing next week. His legal team continues to argue that these are his first convictions and should be treated with leniency, but prosecutors have already made it clear they view his crimes as severe and deserving of incarceration. The government, represented by Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey, stated that they will seek incarceration based on the nature and gravity of the convictions. Though the maximum penalty is 20 years, the actual sentence will depend on multiple factors, including the judge's interpretation of sentencing guidelines, past behavior, and witness impact statements. Meanwhile, the public and civil attorneys are already preparing for what comes after sentencing. Several pending civil lawsuits related to Combs's alleged conduct remain on the docket. Legal analysts say the guilty verdict could strengthen those cases significantly. Public reaction and celebrity fallout. Reactions from the public and fellow celebrities celebrities have been intense and divided. Actress Rosie O'Donnell took to Instagram to blast the verdict, writing, "Guess a jury just never wants to believe a woman stays because of power and coercion. They just think women stay because what? Money? Fame? They love the abuse? What a joke." Her post received an outpouring of support from public figures and survivors. Actress Rosanna Arquette commented, "Broken-hearted for the brave survivors." Outside the courthouse, supporters of the victims were seen spraying baby oil into the crowd, a symbolic gesture referencing the substance Combs allegedly used during the freak-offs. Meanwhile, Ventura's lawyer praised her client's courage in coming forward, stating she paved the way for the verdict. Another accuser's attorney called the split verdict a disappointment, but vowed to keep fighting in civil court. Civil cases filed by other victims remain pending, including lawsuits that claim similar abuse by Combs over the years. Some lawyers believe the criminal conviction will strengthen those future legal actions. Despite Combs's acquittals on the more severe charges, many survivors and advocates see this case as a landmark moment. The legal victory, even partial, is being hailed as a step forward in holding powerful figures accountable for private, predatory behavior. Defense team response. In the wake of the guilty verdicts, Sean Combs's legal team took to the courthouse steps to express their relief and frustration. Teenie Geragos, one of Combs's attorneys, firmly stated to reporters, "Sean Combs has not sexually assaulted anybody." She emphasized that for nearly 2 years, the media had, in her words, got it wrong about Sean Combs every single day. Geragos highlighted that the jury's acquittal on the sex trafficking and racketeering charges supported what the defense had insisted all along, that Combs was not guilty of the most serious accusations. "He has not sexually assaulted anybody, certainly hasn't sex trafficked anybody, and the jury found that today," she concluded. Mark Agnifilo, Combs's lead defense attorney, was also quick to defend the outcome. Addressing the press, he described the verdict as a great victory for Sean Combs and praised the jury's diligence. "One thing stands between all of us and a prison, and that is a jury of 12 citizens," Agnifilo said. "We had a wonderful jury. They listened to every word. They got the situation right, or certainly right enough." He reiterated that the defense views this as a major win despite the 2 convictions. "Today is a win. Today's a victory of all victories for Sean Combs," he declared. The defense team's statements signal a likely appeal and a continued legal battle ahead. While Combs still faces sentencing, his lawyers are clearly preparing to frame the outcome as a partial exoneration, not a defeat. Legal and industry fallout. The entertainment industry is already reacting. Brands previously affiliated with Combs have begun distancing themselves. His liquor brand partnerships have been paused, and several streaming platforms have removed his music from curated playlists. A few industry insiders say Combs's influence in the business world has already taken a major hit. In a separate but related response, civil rights advocates and Me Too leaders have issued statements highlighting the importance of holding celebrities accountable. This case is likely to become a precedent in future cases involving coercion and the misuse of fame and power. The spotlight now turns to whether other influential figures in the music and entertainment world will also face scrutiny. Meanwhile, legal experts suggest Combs may try to appeal his conviction. However, overturning a federal jury's guilty verdict is extremely rare, especially when supported by video evidence and consistent witness testimony. His future in music and business may never fully recover, as the guilty verdicts have tarnished his legacy and created a public relations crisis that even decades of achievements may not undo. This is a developing story. We'll continue to cover the case as sentencing approaches and more reactions unfold. If you found this video informative, please like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about the verdict? Do you think justice was served? Thanks for watching.